Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
You're imagining that it's going to supplement the pension, and instead it turns out to kind of replace the pension.
That's been the result. Not a good thing that companies have abandoned pension plans, but that was going to happen, frankly, whether there's 401k or not.
I told you so.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
In the year of our Lord, 1978, me as an 18-year-old kid and my granddad did quite a bit of what most people back then did to kill time. Sit on the front porch and hang out. That's right, kids, in 1978, with only 3 TV channels and no such thing as the Internet, sitting on the front porch was not only the cool thing to do, but it also allowed you to interact and communicate with others. Imagine that. Funny, during all of this time spent with Granddad, I never could have imagined how watching his worry-free retirement play out would later on in my life lead me to creating the only retirement planning process in the industry dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. As this recent interview of the founder of the 401k discloses, 2 very important things happened in 1978. First, my granddad retiring after 43 years with Bell South, and second, the creation of something new to everyone at that time called the 401k plan. And while Bell South threw a retirement party for Granddad and his buddies, there was another retirement party brewing that future generations of savers would not be invited to, the retirement of Granddad's pension plan, soon to be replaced with the risky and now commonplace form of savers to save money for retirement. That's right, the 401k plan. And who was attending this retirement party in 1978? Well, you had Uncle Sam, the big corporations, and of course, Wall Street. And as this recent video in Jog Down Memory Lane shares, the 401k was never meant to replace the guaranteed income my granddad enjoyed from his pension, something I began telling people way back in the year 2000, when at a time I witnessed the stock market taking a dive that would last not just 2,000, but 2 more years. In other words, while most advisors had no interest in trying to provide a pension-like income to their clients, I did. But with pensions going the way of the dinosaur, how could I help my clients be worry-free by promising them they would not run out of money? Well, in comes the annuity, a product that up until a few years ago was bashed like crazy by those representing the interest of Wall Street. And while I can now say, I told you so, that these annuities would be the ticket for savers worrying less about money, I must now remind savers of a different message, one that comes with a warning shot over the bow and more advisors and financial institutions seeing what I saw more than 20 years ago, that annuities are the only product that can guarantee savers won't run out of money in retirement, which is why today I'm going to take you down memory lane and explain to you why having a game plan from someone you can trust to see you through retirement is way more important than the financial products you might decide to purchase with your life savings. So stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker, and this is the Worry-Free Retirement.
Tired of the roller coaster ride of the stock market? Let Tony Walker show you how to smooth out the ride with your money. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
Funny, as I look back over the past 25 years of telling savers that the 401k was never meant to replace the pension, which it sadly did, now here we are in 2025, the actual founder and creator of the 401k is basically now saying the same thing.
Not a good thing that companies have abandoned pension plans, but that was going to happen, frankly, whether there's 401k or not.
And while I told you so, the fact remains that many in the saver space are now clamoring that corporations would return to the good old days of lifetime income offered by pensions. And yes, even some corporations are starting to listen to them by reintroducing them. But more than likely, that doesn't help you, which is why 25 years ago, I started selling something called fixed annuities to provide what I call
mailbox money,
just like the pensions of old. And while I was chastised by most of the financial world for offering these annuities, back then anyway, wouldn't you know that now many of those same naysayers are selling them? Oh, speaking of another one of those I told you so moments, one of the messages I've been preaching for years is that contrary to what the financial world might be telling you, that there's some sort of magic number out there that you'd be shooting for in retirement, today, as the financial world continues to tell savers how much money they should have, notice studies like these, this one in particular from Northwestern Mutual, that just recently said it would take about $1.4 million to retire. But then, just a little while later, they come out with a different number, a lower number, of around $1.3 million. Folks, I told you so. More proof that no advisor nor big financial institution has cracked the code on how much you will need to retire. The only way, let me repeat, the only way to find out how much you'll need in retirement is by meeting with someone who is trained in the art of retirement planning, such as Tony Walker Financial, and then determine when you can retire and what amount of money you're going to need to pull it off. What you need, folks, is not a magic number. What you need is a plan, such as the proprietary plan that we offer at Tony Walker Financial, a plan that is in writing and clearly shows you, the saver, how much you can comfortably spend in retirement without the fear of one day running out of money. So here's a free offer for those of you who qualify for this free game plan. Listen closely. Either you are retired, you'll be retiring in the next few years, maybe you've just been thinking about retiring, you have at least $250,000 in retirement assets. Now, these would be assets like a 401k plan, a lump sum pension, or other IRA assets you may have invested elsewhere. So what's going to happen if that's you? Simply go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. And here's what's going to happen next. We're going to arrange a personal meeting. That's right. You and I are going to meet in person. We're going to go through something called our starter kit, and I'm going to do some detailed findings for you to assess whether you can retire now, or if you're already retired, how we can help you worry less about money. So to get started, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, or you can simply call us 24/7. That number is 877-499-9255. Stay tuned, folks, because when we come back, we've got some lifelong clients of Tony Walker Financial. And speaking of taking us down memory lane, this is going to be a great interview. So stay tuned. This is the Worry-Free Retirement. We will be right back. Well, with us is fellow fiduciary Heather Hughes to talk about the growth of Tony Walker Financial and the I Told You So phenomenon we're covering today. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Tony.
Well, let's start off with these questions I've got for you. First of all, when you first started working for Tony Walker Financial some 19 years ago, what was the biggest thing you noticed about my determination to help savers plan for this idea of a worry-free retirement?
I think you really felt back then that there was something better out there, and you were very actively seeking that. So I know you went to several conferences looking for safer ways for clients to invest their money. You were also looking at even branding yourself to be a little bit different from just the average advisor out there. Lots of conferences with like Brian Tracy and Strategic Coach, just to really wrap your message and make it effective for clients.
You know, and at that time when it was just you, me, and Connie Fortney in the firm, what were you thinking when I would travel to Louisville beginning every week, and I was the featured guest on a local network show? Then I did all the seminars weekly at the little hotel room, started meeting people at the Starbucks. I'm curious to see what was going on in your mind as you witnessed this play out several years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of funny. At first, when you were saying you're going to go on a live TV show, I was like, "Ooh, not me!" But then somehow I got dragged into that too. But the response was pretty amazing. Once, a few weeks in, we were really seeing people call, and you could really see that there was a need out there for knowledge. People were really struggling during that time, 2007 and 2008. Stock market was going down. They didn't know what to do, didn't know if they could ever retire. And I think you had a fresh message out there to clients or potential clients that retirement is possible in a safe way.
Well said. And then the mood back then was kind of interesting because we were starting to roll a lot of 401ks over from these big custodians that handled the money, mainly in the stock market, and we're moving over to annuities. And that was really pretty new, I guess, back then, because a lot of these 401k plan custodians, now they seem to be behind the annuity concept. But what was their reaction 15, 20 years ago when they found out their clients would be moving from them over to somebody like us and putting money into these annuities?
It was pretty funny, actually. I would say the best way to describe it is they had a big chip on their shoulder. And oftentimes when we were doing rollover calls and they're saying, oh, you want to go with an annuity? Well, good luck with that. Very sarcastic. And now they are entering, or have been entering the last few years, the annuity space, because I think these large custodians realize the value of what an annuity can bring, especially in retirement.
And finally, Heather, with the over 3,500 customers we serve, last year we reached the $1 billion mark in terms of funds coming into Tony Walker Financial and the custodians we put our clients' money in. What would you say to someone now, that annuities are very popular, that's either being pitched an annuity or thinking about buying an annuity?
Well, I'd say first off, get a second opinion or speak to somebody that has been in the retirement space for a long period of time. It takes very little to get licensed to sell annuities. It takes a long time to truly understand how they work and the best way to use them for a client.
Oh, well said. And Heather, I want to thank you again for all of your years of service to Tony Walker Financial and our clients, and also your expertise in annuities and helping us dissect and research these annuities. So thank you again.
You're welcome, Tony.
Make it a good one. We'll be right back, folks.
The individuals in this interview are uncompensated clients at the time of filming. Their opinions expressed were provided to Worry Free Productions for use as an advertisement by Tony Walker Financial. Please refer to Form CRS and Form ADV Part 2B Disclosure Brochure for information regarding the advisory services offered by Tony Walker Financial.
Our client spotlight today features longtime clients of Tony Walker Financial, Miss Marge Graves and her loving husband, Mr. Bob Graves. Hello, y'all. How you all doing?
Hi, Tony.
We're good, Tony.
So the theme of our show today is I Told You So. And as we talked about earlier before we went on, I don't want to sound like I'm braggadocious or anything like that, but you all being long-term clients and kind of keeping up with our history, I thought it would be good to go down memory lane and talk about how we first met.
Well, I had just retired from UPS. I was an occupational health nurse there. And I had a fair amount of money in my 401k, and Bob was still working. And we had met with somebody from the bank that we utilized, and he recommended who we should work with. Then I am at home, and John Ramsey came on. You were the guest speaker that day, and you talked about the services that you offered and what you were about. And when Bob came home that day, I said, I want to go to one of the seminars that Tony has. And Bob does not like change. I guess that's why we've been married 50 years.
Yeah, what was your first reaction?
Well, I
said, we want to go hear this guy.
Why are we going to hear this guy? I said, we've already got a financial advisor. Everything's set up already. I said, why are we going to waste our time, and go listen to this guy? And she said, well, if you don't want to go, I'll go,
Exactly.
And Marge has already been, he's pretty stern about things. And so I reluctantly decided to go.
So here we are at this little tiny room at the Courtyard Marriott. So what, now probably your first impression when you walk in, you remember, Bob?
Well, there was, I think either Connie or Heather were with you. And I guess there was 25, maybe 30 people,
pretty crowded
in a little room there. And we sat there and we listened to you and we enjoyed it. In fact, I guess we enjoyed it so much, we started helping you out, and coming. We went several weeks, You
went to several presentations.
Absolutely.
We did them every week, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I remember.
I was so impressed, Tony, because it was not a hard sell pitch. You were giving information. You were not inviting people to a dinner. You were not enticing people with anything but your expertise and knowledge and your willingness to sit down with people, not to sign people up right then, but to help them decide maybe what they needed to look at. And like I said, it never was a hard sales pitch.
Yeah, like Marge said, it wasn't a hard sell. It was, very, very informative, really. And we enjoyed the first presentation so much that, we came back to several others.
Well, we appreciate that. And then back then, kind of the humble beginnings. Again, this was back in 2007. I didn't really have a Louisville office. I had a Bowling Green office then. What were your thoughts when, I guess, I said, where are we going to meet? And I said, well, we got a Starbucks over here on the corner of Hurstbourne and Shelbyville Road. What was your impression of that?
That was kind of unusual. I thought, is this guy for real? He's from Bowling Green, he's up here and he really doesn't have an office, and he's doing what was it used to be a bank branch, I believe.
That's right.
And you had the boardroom in the Starbucks. And so we went in there and
we were not coffee drinkers at that.
Yeah, we weren't coffee
Starbucks
drinkers.
was not a selling point for us being there.
But you presented the stuff and, you asked what our goals were. I remember the first actual meeting we sat down, you asked what our goals were and we explained those to you, before we went anywhere else,
Well, we appreciated that. And then, of course, it led to us working together and obviously appreciated your business there. But what really got you over the hump to decide to move? Because you were already with a bank and had some money there. Why did you move your money over to Tony Walker Financial? Do you remember?
You gave us more information than anybody else ever had. And you had a game plan. You had everything simplified to the point where somebody who does not have a financial background or a background really at UPS, based on the fact that I was in management, I was given a certain amount of stock, but I'm a nurse. I do not have a financial background, but your expertise, you found out what we wanted, what our goals were, and it was up to us to decide what was right for us.
Well, the other financial advisor did not have a game plan. They wanted our money, and we could do this for you, but it was never how you're going to get your money out once you retire. With you, we found security for our money, and
you also got to know us.
Yeah,
which you don't always find that with a relationship that you have with somebody who has the expertise that you have. And from the very beginning with your staff and you, Tony, we felt we trusted you.
Well, I think when you're dealing with a person's life savings, there has to be trust. That has to be number one thing. And like Marge said, we felt confident that you were the one that we could trust with our money.
I appreciate that. And you've seen the humble beginnings. I think I had 3 full-time employees back then at that time. Now we're up to 19, plus we've got Aaron and Derek here in the production studio. So has any of that really changed, the service and the attention to detail since that time?
The service was always good. Even when there were only 3 of you, you felt like you were the number one client. And that's still the case, even though your staff has expanded to 20-some people. You're still, you treat each individual like they're the number one client.
And I think the clients do get to know your staff. They're not people that are, behind a closed door that you don't have any relationship with them. Your clients continue to meet with you if they want to, anytime they want to. It was like the hand fitting into the glove for us that it was right. And it's still, these years
right.
Later, since 2007, we still feel it's right.
Yeah. 20 years later, we're very happy with what's transpired in the last 20 years.
And speak to that a little bit. Now we're into the year 2025, and Bob, you've even commented on that. In fact, if we go back to the days when I was on the network television, sometimes the network would have on a different guest following me, and you even said one of the guests even would refute what I just said.
Right.
And now as we fast forward, what's happened to the industry with all the people that are now offering maybe secure products and annuities versus back then?
I think back then, usually if you wanted a financial advisor, you went to the bank or your lending institution, something like that. And then, when you came on the scene, there may have been 2 or 3 other financial advisors.
Or at least that we were aware of.
Yeah, that we were aware of.
Through advertising or word of mouth.
But now it seems like there's a plethora, so.
It almost reminds me of all the advertisements now that, every other commercial is about an attorney. A plethora of other financial people that want to sell their services.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say to somebody? Because like you said, they're getting bombarded with messages, dinner seminars or whatever. A lot of people want to offer retirement advice. What would you tell the average consumer out there, especially a saver that maybe was in your same position, but here they are now, retired or getting ready to retire before they just make that leap of faith to work with just anybody?
Well, I think you have to you have to meet with the person. You have to develop the trust in that person. And it's just, again, I'm repeating myself. I think trust is the key. You're trusting somebody with your life savings, and it could be either good or bad. And people knock annuities, but I think that's because of the surrender charges that people don't understand. But
your staff provides service. You and your staff provide service that there's never a time that we get put on hold and wait for 5 minutes before somebody will get back to you. Your staff does an excellent job of knowing how to provide customer service, Tony.
So that kind of helps the whole trust.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just like Marge said, if you call and whoever you're asking for is unavailable at that time, that person gets back to you right away. I mean, it's not the next day or 2 hours later. It's probably after they've finished whatever they're doing.
And this kind of finally, this used to come up, and you may remember this in workshops. I often thought it was maybe a plant, maybe a competitor. I'd go through these workshops we described earlier, and at the very end, inevitably, somebody in the back of the room would say, "Hey, this sounds good, but I've got a question. What happens if something happens to you?" Which is a legitimate question.
Sure.
But how would you respond to the audience maybe thinking the same thing in terms of the people I have in line to take over eventually when I can no longer do this?
When we first started with you, Tony, that was a concern that we had. Because you were the
one-man band.
You were the
one-man band. Really.
And we don't worry about that at all. We know what you put into place. We know that they are trained and they are qualified. Not to say that they can take your place, but they could take your place, Tony, if you needed them to.
But of course, when we started with you, there was Heather. So I mean,
Connie, that was really Heather.
Connie. Yeah. Of course, Connie retired in the last year or so. But Since then, Trey and Wes have come on board, and we feel comfortable with them. I mean, we've actually grown, to know them over the years since they've come on board. So we're very, very confident that should something happen to you, or should you even retire, there is a line of succession that will continue Tony Walker.
Well, that's very good. Well, so I appreciate you so much. Hopefully many more years to come, but regardless of what the future might hold, we appreciate your business and trust so much to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker here. And as we go down memory lane today, I'm going to go down a different memory lane. And actually, it's with one of our star employees here in the Louisville office, our office manager and also our media buyer, Miss Gina Tutwiler. Good morning, Gina.
Good morning.
And I had to bring you in on this. Now, first of all, describe a little bit about your situation, still working, but you have a husband who's retired. Tell us real briefly about his situation now.
I have a husband who is retired about 2-3 years now, and I still work full time, and I used to have my days. We work a 4-day work week, and I would have my Fridays, and I would know exactly what I was going to get done and all that good stuff. And then he retired.
And then he's there.
And now he's there. And he expects me to do things with him all day long. And I'm like, no, I got a plan. I got things to do.
And I've got a little sign on our desk that one of your friends made. Apparently you went to lunch shortly after Tut retired and you were lamenting about the fact that he's always there. What does that little sign say?
Something to the fact that I want him to go back to work quickly.
Yeah, it says behind every man retired is a wife wishing he would go back to work. Okay, but now I've got you here, and I think this is just kind of interesting. This is a serious topic, folks. And to tell you how serious it is, Dear Abby, which Dear Abby's been deceased for a long time, right? This is Gene Phillips or whatever her name is. But anyway, in Dear Abby, I like to read Dear Abby said, I got to read this too. This was in the Bowling Green Daily News, April 10th, 2025. Here, you'll love this. Husband's retirement off to a rocky start. Now, folks, this is a serious issue. Now, Gina is still working, but many of you know what I'm talking about. You've been home. That home is your household. That's your domain. That's your kingdom. And all of a sudden, we'll be stereotypical. Husband now, who's been gone for 40 years, he's home full time. Right, Gina?
Yes, he's there. He's got to find some things to do.
Then listen to this. Okay, so it says, Dear Abby, my husband retired 3 years ago, and he has been driving me crazy ever since. I love this. It says, I'm a night owl, And he's known it since we met 10 years ago. Today, he told me he'd be playing golf with an old friend tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. at a course 45 minutes away, so he needed to get up at 6 a.m. Do you see where this Dear Abby's going?
Exactly where it's going.
Okay. I asked if he could be extra quiet in the morning and use the guest bathroom to shower so he wouldn't wake me. I think this is hilarious. He huffily, I like that word. Is that a word? Huffily?
I guess so.
Okay, it is now. If it's in Dear Abby, it's got to be. He huffily put his towel and shampoo in the guest shower, stomped back to his easy chair, and plopped heavily.
Get to the next side.
Now, hopefully Tut doesn't listen to this show, but I've got to see if we've got any, we'll call this a Tutism. Anyway, when I asked him what was wrong, he said he was annoyed that he couldn't take his shower in a regular bathroom. I said I was annoyed that it would make me lose an hour of sleep before working an 8-hour day. Oh, so she's still working. Okay. He said, sorry, you're annoyed, but I'm retired. And things are changing! Exclamation point. That hadn't been that much of a declarative statement from Tut, has it?
No,
nothing like that.
Nothing like that.
Okay, good. So here's the part I wanted to look, and this is the we're getting more serious because this is true. I never expected him to get up earlier in retirement. Is it asking too much that my routine, so there's her routines, right? Uh-huh. And sleep, etc., schedule, not be disrupted as long as I'm still working. After that, anything goes, but I still need the structure. Okay, so what do you think, being a female, again, I'm not trying to be stereotypical, what is really going through her mind with this whole major change?
Well, it's big adjustments for everyone. She's used to her routine. He's used to his routine. Everyone just needs to be able to step back and appreciate where everybody is at this point in life. And I think it's comical. My husband used to get up really early. He'd get up at 4:15.
Well, he had to drive, didn't he? Like 50 miles to one way.
So he got up really early, and he was always very quiet and did his thing and whatever. Now he gets up and he, if it's a Friday and I might want to sleep, he'll still get up, and he's like a bull in a china shop. And I'm like, hello, still trying to sleep over here. This is my one day to sleep. I don't pay.
Bull in a china shop. And I have seen Ted work. We went on vacation that time. It can get a little noisy. Yeah. So,
a little messy.
Oh, a little messy. But here's what I would say, folks, and see if you would concur, Gina. We run into this a lot. And I would say respect the fact, whoever's retiring, it could be a female or male. This has actually happened. This was last year. I met with a couple. He actually retired, kind of like Tut. She was working, and they kind of had a little small farm. And she made the comment, because she was going to be retiring soon, she said, I cannot wait to retire so I can get home and start working on that honeydew list. And he didn't say a word. So we kind of talked about it. I said, ma'am, this could be an issue. I mean, I could tell he wasn't saying much. He was bothered by this. I said, why don't we do this? Why don't y'all work out a deal where only 2 days a week he has to do honeydews? And he was like nodding his head frantically at me like, I like this idea. And she agreed. But the point is, folks, realizing, and Gina's realizing this too, it's an adjustment for everyone. Oh. Wouldn't you say that?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And I would talk through things, whether it's the husband or wife that's retiring first or second, it doesn't matter. Respect the fact that the one that's been home has having to make adjustments. The one that retires has to realize that it's not now just their domain. They've got to make adjustments. And I would say before anybody retires, I really would, especially if somebody's been home for a while, the person retiring, I would have a conversation. It doesn't have to necessarily be with somebody like me, but I have met, Gina, you know how many people, you see how many people I meet with. I've met with hundreds of people where this comes up. So just be respectful of each other. Try to make sure you have something to do, maybe some hobbies, some things intentionally take you out of the house and vice versa. And just be sure to give each other some space. Would you say that's a pretty good?
Most definitely. But make sure it's okay that they get up and play that early golf game because that is important.
Well, yeah, and I love golf. That is very important. Well, Gina, thank you for your time. Thank you for all you do. And I'm glad you're still working here, quite frankly. I know Tut's retired, but thank you for all that you do for Tony Walker Financial.
You're welcome.
Well, folks, you've been listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. If you'd like to talk to me personally, Tony Walker, and set up a free phone call to see how we can help you worry less about money in retirement, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. We hope you've enjoyed today's program. We look forward to talking to you next week on The Worry-Free Retirement. But you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free and you make it a good one.